The test we did yesterday is historic. I still am digesting it because it basically means the end of fossil fuels.
One of the painful realities I have seen in energy is this is a very dangerous game altogether. Yeah, especially free energy, because you know, as I said, if they can try to kill it using professional people, and that has happened to me. I went through a lot, poisons, like I'm saying right now. I'm fighting it. They come to you, then they said, no, you mustn't do this. When they see that you're not giving up, then they can just frame you. Then they can say, no, you have done ABC. My prayer is this thing must see the light of the day. First in the world to have such kind of a technology where a television is powered with a radio frequency. So as you can see right now, I'm powering this television. So this is the first television in the world that uses self-power to say. It is all in one. You don't need to put it on electricity or on solar panel or anything. As it is a complete solution. Behind the television, you can see that there is a microsonic energy device, this box. This is the device that is converting radio frequencies into pure energy. As you can see, the power of the cable was supposed to be here. On all traditional televisions, power comes here, but there's no power, as you can see. The television is working as it is. So in layman, I think this television is we can call it a self-powered television.
It's an invention that has made headlines across the globe, attracting the attention of major scientific brains in the United States of America. The green generator, an invention designed and constructed by Zimbabwean inventor Maxwell Chikumbutso, is the first of its kind, using radio frequency to generate electricity at high scale.
So we harness radio frequencies. These are natural radio frequencies that we harness. Then we convert it through the components that are in the microsonic energy device. Like I said before, 70% of the components inside this device are tailor-made. You cannot get them anywhere in the world. The current comes out as a DC current. It goes to the down converter and the DC controller. Then from there, the computer does the work. The microcontroller fine adjusts and it tells the microsonic energy device what voltage has to go to the inverter. Then on the inverter side, that is the component that we use, the part that we use to change the current to alternating current. This is the current that powers all the lights that is used everywhere. So from the inverter, we have got the step-up transformer to say, which is an AVR. This is the bottom part. It's air-cooled.
Decades ago, one great scientist, Nikola Tesla, attempted the same innovation, but faced hurdles. Maxwell has become the first person in living history to make a major breakthrough, and for his efforts, American firms are featuring his invention on a documentary that is celebrating this great mind.
We believe that we didn't violate the second law of energy in thermodynamics, but we have managed to make a new discovery, new formulas of maths. How that law is still working, but what we have done, we have managed to refine through the machine. As you can see, as small as it is, we can power everything, but we are not damaging anything.
The green generator may very well become the answer to power challenges facing not only Zimbabwe, but other nations across Africa and beyond. Maxwell is already planning to utilize his invention to benefit rural communities in Zimbabwe.
We'll give the blueprints for free. We'll identify the communities, the people who can do so that we can just provide them with the skill and they can design, they can construct their own machines and use. But we are looking at those who are disadvantaged.
Amazingly, Maxwell never trained formally in electronics or engineering.
A brief trip into the future with inventor Maxwell Chikumbutso. He's claiming a scientific breakthrough with this green energy technology, an electric car which he says converts radio frequencies into energy.
The powertrain, we did it in-house, which makes it the first electric vehicle in the world that drives without needing recharging systems. On the greener power off-grid machine, it's very unique. For the first time, energy is being generated using a radio frequency and without moving parts.
Chikumbutso is not the typical scientist. He dropped out of school aged 14 and says he's developed his blueprints through research and visions from God. A showroom in Harare showcases his prototypes. A helicopter that operates using any one of the 5 fuels, including paraffin, a drone and a household transformer that he says can multiply power 100-fold. But he says breaking his disruptive technology into the world has not been easy. He's failed to patent his work.
That's why we end up finding nuclear scientists, electromagnetic professors, so that they can assist us on the patent process. But as you are aware that in patents, anything that violates the laws of physics, it's not an industrial applicable solution. They classify it as a perpetual motion device.
Luis Kupenala, a South African-based Angolan businessman, has poured millions into the project, but now believes it's time to commercialize. He says the Angolan government and a Brazil private energy player have signed up to buy some of their products, but that other investors don't generally believe anything credible can come out of Africa.
We just sell from our skin color. We don't believe on ourselves. But obviously, a new generation has another responsibility to change this kind of paradigm to another level, whereby we have to capitalize on our abilities in Africa.
Zimbabwean scientists who spoke to the SABC also expressed skepticism, but Chikumbutso brushes the naysayers aside. He says he's determined to ensure that his God-given gift brings energy to light up the continent and put Zimbabwe on the technological map.
When Nils and I arrived and met Maxwell, I was very impressed with just what a gentle, true-seeming soul he was. And then the next morning, we went to see the device, and he gave us a full tour. I was practically ecstatic. It was such a beautiful, elegant device.
What we're looking at is called the green power off-grid machine. It is 0.5 megawatt, and we are relying with the radio frequency. We harness a radio frequency, convert it into pure energy that is useful. It is called a microsonic energy device. A microsonic energy device, it is the generator in this machine.
For people who are not familiar with this, 0.5 megawatt, How much will that power in terms of a house or a community or what?
We're talking of about 300 standard house homes, yeah,
Okay.
that you can power with one machine.
So there's no oil burning, there's no fires going on or anything. So where's the energy coming from?
We're harnessing it straight away from the natural energy that God has just put in the earth, on our earth. Yeah, the radio frequency.
So nothing unusual, but the main point is that a meter away there's no frequencies being transmitted from a microwave tower next to the park we're standing in.
It's a poignant day for us here, and amidst the excitement of seeing this for the first time, a couple of strangers showed up on the site where we were being shown these devices, and Maxwell, the inventor, took us aside as soon as he could and said, "These guys are from the government," and I didn't know they were coming. Unfortunately, we're truly concerned about this gentleman, and we're just going to take every precaution that we can to keep ourselves safe, to keep him safe, and to keep this knowledge safe.
We're here with Maxwell, and the test is starting.
Once we arrived on site, our goal for the vetting was to establish that the device could power a welding machine, which uses a lot of electricity very quickly, for long enough that it couldn't be running on batteries alone.
So you were asking where the energy came from. You mentioned the other day the sun, but it's not like solar energy.
No,
right?
it's not. We're not using solar energy because this one is not even affected with clouds, light, and things
Right.
like that. It just works.
So the energy, the radio frequencies that you're harnessing, are they there in space, in the field all the time?
Yes, they are. From the first day we started testing the machine, we have been analyzing and we saw that the radio frequency is there. But one thing that we want to know for sure is it alien or is it God? Is it man-made from another planet or is it from God? That's where we need, I think, scientific people to define exactly. But we know the radio frequency, we have everything.
The test we did yesterday is historic. I still am digesting it because it basically means the end of fossil fuels.
One of the painful realities I have seen in energy is this is a very dangerous game altogether. Yeah, especially free energy, because as I said, if they can try to kill it using professional people, and that has happened to me. I went through a lot, poisons, like I'm saying right now. I'm fighting it. They come to you, then they said, no, you mustn't do this. When they see that you're not giving up, then they can just frame you. Then they can say, no, you have done ABC. My prayer is this thing must see the light of the day. The electric vehicle invention, it is an invention that we took from the greener power of grid machine. The greener power of grid machine is the machine that birthed the microsonic energy device invention. Later on, we felt that since now we have got a perpetual generator, why can't we borrow the technology and integrate it into a vehicle, then see how the vehicle operates. That was the birth of the electric vehicle. That became the first electric vehicle in the world that doesn't need any external recharging. Meaning to say it is like a moving generator. You can take it to a rural area, then you can even draw energy from the vehicle to power your house. Unlike what is happening in the electric vehicles which are there, where you have to connect it to your house to recharge the batteries overnight. But the electric vehicle is a different technology altogether. We are using radio frequencies. So the electric vehicle and the greener power of grid machine, they share the same common invention, which is called microsonic energy device, a device that harnesses radio frequencies and change it into direct energy. But that is useful.
The Sea of Energy in Which the Earth Floats was a revolutionary book written by T. Henry Moray an electrical engineer and Tesla enthusiast, who in the early 20s began working on a device he claimed intercepted radiant energy from outer space. His solid-state detector, the Moray valve, was designed with a complex series of semiconductors, high-voltage capacitors, and transformers hooked up to an antenna and a ground wire. By stimulating the existing oscillations of space energy, his radiant energy device ran for days, putting out 50 kilowatts of electricity. His public demonstrations attracted newspaper coverage and scientists from Bell Laboratories and the Department of Agriculture's Rural Electrification Administration. Although no one could find evidence of fraud, neither could anyone explain how the radiant energy device worked. During the 30s, he developed semiconductors and transistors that were far ahead of their time. Unfortunately, as all too many inventors have suffered, when he refused to sell out to powerful interests, Moray and his family were threatened, shot at, and their laboratory ransacked. Ignored by the U.S. Patent Office, Moray quietly stopped public disclosure of the device after it was destroyed by his assistant, Felix Frazier, a communist sympathizer who was frustrated when Moray declined his repeated offers to take that technology to Russia. Today, Moray's sons, John and Richard, continue to pursue their father's dream. In Oklahoma, where oil has been king for over a century, inventor Troy Reed has been busy in his shop constructing rotating magnetic motors that he believes will soon revolutionize how we get around.
And it does work. This is a new prototype of the magnetic motor, and if I can explain a little bit about what you call a magnetic field. All magnets, the big old wooden prototype, has a system. As the motor went over, it had a tension to jerk over like that. If you take this motor here and you take your finger and rotate it, it doesn't have that jerking in it. So what I've done, I got rid of the crankshaft. I've got rid of the injectors, and the system in this motor here, as you crank this motor up, and like you do the other one, the motor will start running. And what I'll do, I'll energize it on this motor here. If you can see these amp gauges over here, this will come, when we get it up to about 150 volts, we'll unplug it and we'll turn the light on. If you turn this around where you can see this side here, all the working parts is behind this system here. Operates from a little computer. Takes this 5 volts. It's 150 volts. What we're going to do, turn off all the switches, make sure there ain't nothing plugged into it. There's the plug. There's your 110 volts. Motor still running. You can operate this table plumb around. Still got energy running. Nothing tied up in the back of it. Nothing on the floor. Rotate around, still running electricity. So we're looking, hoping this time next year that you'll be able to use it in your home. So that's another. And what's good about this, you're talking about electric automobiles. This right here can set it in the back of an electric automobile and generate electricity and charge batteries up in a car. Beautiful automobile. You can drive it anywhere you want to. You don't pollute the air. All the other electric automobiles that I've actually seen has been nothing but this standard transmission. This is an automatic transmission car. There's not a whole lot of what you call junk, I would call, under cars. I've seen a lot of electric cars that had a lot of stuff in it. The only thing that this has a battery to run the radio, the blower. We've got 2 safety switches over here that can be mounted into an enclosed system, but we did this where you could see, where people can see this car with the technology. It's a safety switch system. This is a controller box, a Curtis control box. It cuts the amperage down. So with the amperage, here's what's real good about electric automobiles. All electric automobiles that have such technology with this in it, they create heat. They've got to have a fan to blow this Curtis controller off because it gets hot. We don't want that to get hot. We want to stay that cold, because once it stays cold, you save on all the computer chips that's in this controller. So that means you can go farther, longer, and you'll have no problems. This electric automobile has got two gauges in front of the shifter on the automatic transmission. It's called the voltage and the amperage. That's what I was talking about earlier about amperage on automobiles. Let's see if we can't get the amperage to go down instead of going up. The voltage on this here should say somewhere around 120 volts. When we start out, there's no amperage at all. So the gauges is down below here, and we're getting ready to take and go drive the car, and you can see for yourself what it does. All you do is to take and put it in gear, and the motor sounds like a little sports car. Shifts, runs good, fantastic automobile, drives. If you'll see the amperage on the gauge, see it going down? Amperage goes way down. That's what I like about an electric car. If you floorboard the car, the most it will do would just be about maybe 100 amps. And that's what we want to do, is to keep the amperage down on an electric car. So it'll go anywhere really anybody wants to go. If you want to take a trip, you don't have to worry about it going to go plug it in the house, because it's called the surge technology. It's a beautiful automobile, and I love it, and I put a lot of hard work in this car, and we're going to make it. No oil, no gas to fool with. And the technology is here. It's going to be here. It's going to go. It's going to work beautiful for the whole world, for mankind. See you around. This is your future, people.
As we have seen so far, electromagnetism seems to be offering the most viable path for many contemporary inventors.
This question. Have you ever had the idea of building the real anti-gravity device? Well, everyone has his own thoughts, right? But unless you're not interested, at the end of the day, you want to make sure what you have learned is valid. And this will immediately give you the idea of building the real anti-gravity device. These anti-gravity phenomena have been something that the governments didn't want any one of us to be aware of, especially when it comes to how they operate in these flying platforms that we already recognize, like the OTC X1, Silfake generator, Graviticos platform, and Scharberg's device. There's even other. But firstly, this concept of anti-gravity is taking almost the whole part in the modern technology. And I think this is the reason why every single scientist who tries to reveal the real secret about anti-gravity is silenced. So today we're going to go over this anti-gravity concept, and I want you guys to stay focused and be aware of these mistakes that you guys still make when you are analyzing this strange stuff. So stay focused, and let's get straight to it.
This thing some people talk about called anti-gravity. Is it real? Well, no, or at least probably not.
I think you are also familiar with this type of analysis, where people think that the anti-gravity phenomenon does not exist. And this is exactly what I've been telling you all this time. When you rely on the long analysis, you end up getting confused, and you won't even achieve a little effect from them. So the only solution to this situation is that you start carrying out your own experiments. This will help you more than just watching the YouTube videos. So whenever I say something in my videos and you don't totally agree with it, or maybe you are not really sure about it, you have to carry out your own experiments about it. Because I want each one of my subscribers to analyze things the right way, where they will get the final results.
Because of the way the gravity is being used, gravity bends time and space, and it bends light.
So when it comes to this thing we call anti-gravity, or the electromagnetic propulsion force, it actually depends on how you want to call it. I totally believe it's real. But let me first get where this whole story started. Since Nikola Tesla invented the AC electricity, the idea of anti-gravity was born. And this also got me wondering about this fascinating topic, which is called conductivity. To everyone who doesn't know or what I mean when I talk about conductivity, conductivity is the key to everything when it comes to the electromagnetic propulsion systems. This is the picture that I got when I was analyzing the propulsion procedures of Victor Scharberg's device. But I don't really think you actually understand this. And I think it was my first time ever seeing that diagram in the internet. But the funny point here is that when you look closely on this diagram too, you will also notice the polarities of charge. So the question here is, why does every single model depends on this concept of conductivity? When you also get where the whole story of the seal effect generator started, it will then literally take you to the script from one of my interesting videos on my main channel called Kenyan Physics, where I explained how the idea of the seal effect generator came, and I hope you all understand it. So let's get straight to it and take notes if possible, right? In 1946, John Charles discovered that in a fast rotating disk, a radial driving force with a vertical vector appears. In order to increase this effect, he first magnetized the disk using permanent magnets. Inspired by his work, John Charles and John Searle tested a model outside, and already at a short rotation, a strong difference of potentials occurred in the radial direction of the rings, which actually caused the crackling of charge and the smell of ozone. Then something unexpected happened. The block of rings took off, and the disk kept spinning and floated about 1 meter above the ground. The object was surrounded by a pink glow, which signified the activation of the air at a drop in pressure. Do you remember what John Searle said? He mentioned that when the conductivity switched, his platform was propelled by the surrounding air. The seg accumulates the high electrostatic charges that ionize the surrounding air and envelop it in an intense vacuum. You should also ask yourself this question: why does some of the UFOs depend on this concept of conductivity? This also relates to what Otis T. Carr said. He said that the two rotating and counter-rotating charged bodies invokes rate. When you also look at the technologies of the Aryan flying saucers and other flying platforms, which has no moving parts, conductivity comes first on the list. So that was the picture of the SEG in the 1940s, and that is actually the way we should be understanding this flying platform, without using other mathematical terms or equations. But today when people talk about the SEG, this is the picture that actually comes to your mind, right? A bunch of coils surrounding the rotating magnets. And this is where this whole topic gets even more funny. I'm pretty sure that you have seen a lot of videos from different people who are trying to replicate the seal fake generator. At the slow rotation, the SEG accumulated high electrostatic charges, which caused the crackling of charge and the smell of ozone. To be honest, we actually know only two Russians who tried to replicate the seal effect generator: Vladimir Loshid and Sergei Godin. These guys visited John Charles in prison. They asked him a lot about his device, but even though he didn't tell them the secret, they didn't give up until they finally built their own free energy device. At only 350 kilograms, it gave 10 kV of electric power without using any fuel, and its weight dropped during rotation. And here we are today. We have permanent magnets, coils, and the surrounding plate. That's all. How could these components here provide the high electrostatic charges that can ionize the surrounding air? This question popped up in my mind a few weeks ago. I was wondering, why does every single concept about the seal effect generator talks about its free energy? Nobody is talking about anti-gravity concept. So here's what I think. The SEG accumulates high electrostatic charges, which ionizes the surrounding air. Then the ionized air gets enveloped in an intense vacuum, where it will easily be affected by the electromagnetic fields of the plates and the electromagnetic coils in order to get the anti-gravity effect. The potentials created by the generator can reach even to the highest levels due to the designs and installations of the SEG, which makes high voltage flashover seem impossible. And here's an interesting fact about the seal effect generator. Unlike any other form of the electrical technology, the presence of electrons flow through the generator actually cools it, reducing resistance. This phenomenon is due to the free electrons being pulled out of the air, and the resulting energy causes the air to cool. It is also written that when the SEG reached 4 Kelvin degree of coldness, it completely took off the ground. But my opinion on this is that we have to change the way we understand this device, right? Instead of spending that much time learning more about the sales rows of squares, you have to take a pen and make your own analysis based on the experiments. That is the only way you will understand exactly the mechanism which actually takes place. So I think this video explains a lot about the CO effect generator, especially when you look at this topic called conductivity. You don't even have to believe what I'm saying right now. You should listen to what Johnson said himself. He said that when conductivity switched, his platform was propelled by the air. You can also depend on what Otis Ticker said in one of his interviews. He said that the two rotating and counter-rotating charged bodies invokes rift. So all of these are the facts which signifies the real truth about conductivity. But when I talk about this, I don't want you to think in terms of these kinds of videos. Well, they are also interesting at the same time, but when you want to get something bigger, you have to go even further.
It has 0 moving parts and is powered by about 20,000 volts.
This is one of the interesting videos that I got from one of the Plasma Channel's video, where he explains a lot about the ionic wind and how the ionic wind provides hope for anti-gravity. Well, I really like his videos. They are really interesting. But the problem is that he tries to relate ionocraft to the anti-gravity effect. He also uploaded a video maybe a few months ago where he was talking about the ionocraft, and if you have seen that video, I think you actually saw that he didn't get the anti-gravity effect at all. Well, maybe you don't understand this. The back shell uses only 4 electrostatic volts to achieve the effect of gravitation. By gravitation, I mean where one wing gravitates over the other one. But the ionocraft here uses almost 30,000 electrostatic volts to only lift grams. And by that being said, it also makes me wonder how many volts will it require to lift a platform which weighs like OTC-X1 in the air. Can you even imagine that impossibility? That is totally impossible. That is crazy. Because if we even apply that amount of energy, that amount of volts in the platform, it can destroy almost anybody in the platform. So when I talk about conductivity, I don't want you to think in terms of the ionic wind, the ionic thrusters, because you can even apply 1 million volts of electrostatic charges and still get no anti-gravity effect at all. So let's jump to the next question. How does OTC-X1 work? And how does it relate to this concept of conductivity?
It's something that they seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
What do you know about this platform? The OTC-X1 is one of the mysterious platforms ever existed. And when you even use YouTube search, you will find almost no video talking about this thing, except the interviews of Otis Ticker. So let me get to the bottom of his story. Otis Ticker was an inventor who invented a flying platform, which he called the OTC-X1 model. Using 2 counter-rotating metal plates, spinning electromagnets, and large capacitors, which when spinning charged and powered by battery, the whole platform became activated by the energy of space. He also created a company which was supposed to advance and apply technologies suggested by Nikola Tesla. The company was called OTC Enterprise. So what do we have in the model? In the OTC-X1, we have central accumulator, neutrons, capacitor plates, C-shaped electromagnets, and a hollow. When it's running, the central segmented disk, actually the inner part, rotates in one direction, and the outer part rotates in another. This also applies to the gravifier because the upward disk and the lower disk rotates in different directions. And we actually know how to get this phenomenon on the gravifier. We use motors on both disks. But when it comes to the OTC-X1, this phenomenon gets a little bit different because the outer part of the craft doesn't get powered by the motor to start moving. So how is this counter-rotation produced? Let's take a look. This is what we have in the model. As demonstrated by Laughing, this is actually how the neutrons are positioned in the C-shaped electromagnets. Looking from the upward, neutron is like a circle, and it looks like square on the side view. When it's pressed in the C-shaped electromagnets, there's a little space, almost no space, between the neutrons and the electromagnets. Remember, on the OTC-X1, the inner disk is powered by battery to start moving, but the outer part doesn't get powered like that. You only turn on the C-shaped electromagnets. Well, I think you guys remember the latest demonstration I talked about in the latest video, when I was talking about the aluminum plate and the magnet experiment. But in case you don't, take a thick aluminum plate, put it on a table, and then take a neodymium magnet. Then move it fast near the plate. What did you see? The effect you are going to experience is that the aluminum plate will move a little bit in the dilation of the magnet. And this phenomenon also applies in the OTC X1 model. The neutron is made of a big size of aluminum. So when you spin the central disk, which contains the neutrons inside the C-shaped electromagnets, the neutrons will dilatorily accelerate in the different dilation to the dilation of the central disk. This means if the central disk is moving light, the neutrons will move left. Then at a certain acceleration of the central disk, the outer part C-shaped electromagnets will start moving in the same dilation as the neutrons. Well, we actually know that the object gains mass the faster it accelerates to light speed, right? This means we have to let the counter rotations do the rest automatically. The neutrons will accelerate faster, and this will cause the rapid speed of the electromagnets and the outer part of the craft. And when the outer part's rotation reaches the inner disk rotation, the craft will be activated by the energy of space. Well, at this point, I think you are also asking yourself, how would this platform levitate above the ground? Well, we have activated the platform, but this is where the topic gets even more fascinating. Because if we have activated the platform, then the next step is to find out the way this platform will levitate above the ground. So let's get straight to the topic, and this will dilatorily take us to this fascinating interview Orestes got with the media when he was talking about his platform. And here's actually what he said when he was asked the difference between the UFOs and his device. He said, "We don't know. We didn't have a chance to examine the objects we saw, but we acknowledged the use of the same principles. Our design uses gravity, electromagnetism, electromotive force, and the relation field to obtain its operational functionality." And when John asked him if his device wouldn't need the rocket systems to take off the ground, here's what he said. He said, "We take energy from air and from other dimensions. The Earth itself is a spaceship, which demonstrates what we are stating. It is rotating and orbits at a constant speed within a magnetic field. Our planet is the propeller of our ship." When you take a closer look at these statements of Carr, I'm pretty sure you'll notice some of the interesting statements and keywords that could help you understand well this flying platform. For example, here he said, "We take energy from air and from other dimensions." This statement matches 100% with what John Searle said when he said that his platform was propelled by air when conductivity switched. And this is actually what I've been telling you. I didn't know more about this interview that he had with John, but after reviewing everything that he said, to be honest, this question popped up in my mind. Why are these men's principles much related? I mean, this is a known interview that Orestes got with a media when he was introducing his device to the public. Well, maybe some of the clips were removed, but according to how Orestes was answering the questions, it seems like he didn't want to expose the whole secret to the public. But he did use some of the obvious topics and statements that could tell people a little bit about the secrets that he was hiding at the time. He also said that the Earth is a spaceship, which demonstrates what he was saying. It is rotating and orbits at a constant speed within a magnetic field. And this obviously was what his platform does, because we first get it spinning, and when the outer part's rotation matches the inner disk rotation, they said it gets activated by the free space energy. And then if the platform is already activated, the last method is to find out how the produced electromagnetic fields will help us to gain gravitation. And I totally think you know how. This will dilatorily take us to this man called James F. King Jr. In 1964, James F. King Jr. presented his apparatus on how the ionized region gets affected by the magnetic fields. Well, this will later take us to this concept that I think some of the scientists talk about differently, even wrong. It is called the MHD, or the magnetohydrodynamics. It depends on how you want to call it. We use this method to directly affect the highly charged region around the craft, so we can get propulsion when the spannings are in the right dilations. I think it sounds easier, right? But you have to understand that this is not something that you can wake up in the morning and start replicating. They say that when the seal effect generator, when it was 1 meter above the ground, it produced a pink glow. So these things require a lot of experiments and a lot of analysis. And I've been telling you this in my latest videos on my main channel called Kidium Physics. Well, maybe you've heard about the OTCX1, seal effect generator, Gravitical's platform, and more. To be honest, we know how advanced these platforms are, but I think I'm not the only one who have seen these UFO videos, which are all over the internet. These unidentified flying objects are somehow scary when it comes to how they control nature. They move at light speeds, they sometimes perform their right angle turns, and they sometimes produce much light when they are about to take a quick travel. Well, I don't think you actually understand the right angle turn that I'm actually talking about. Suppose that I have a stone and I'm about to drop it on the ground. But before it gets to the ground, it immediately turns on the side and keeps moving. I think you actually understand how crazy this sounds, right? Because the stone already has the initial forces when it's moving, which makes it even harder for it to turn left or right. This phenomenon of the right angle turns was also performed by the ARV, or the Iron Production Vehicle. Well, what I'm actually trying to tell you is that these platforms really need attention when you are analyzing them and carrying out the experiments about them. Because I'm pretty sure you notice some of the interesting phenomena you didn't know before, but only when you decide to do the experiments. So, the OTCX1 generates high electrostatic charges the more it accelerates to high speeds. It is also said that the OTCX1 model had some principle similar to those of the motionless electrical generator, or the MEG, which will be used to solve the problems of less electrical power. This craft uses the principles of MHD drive. We charge the hollow with HV positive and the Tesla coil, and then HV negative on the bottom of the outer part. The positive charge will accelerate downward on the negative electrodes, forming fields. Then the central core will also form the electromagnetic fact signs, running from the top to the bottom. According to my own experiments and analysis, here's what I propose. When the frequency of the central core's electromagnetic fields matches the electrostatic field's frequency, they will immediately resonate and develop another kind of fields which will be affected by the rotating electromagnetic fields produced by the C-shaped electromagnets, neutrons, and the capacitor plates. At this time, the whole craft will be resonating, which means it will detect any change. Even when you try to disturb the outer part of the craft, you will feel the effect in a form of sound. At a certain acceleration, when the charges are already built up, the craft will start taking off the ground according to the dilations of the neutrons, inner disk, and the outer part of the craft. This anti-gravity concept is large when it comes to how people explain it. There's even others who doesn't believe it exists at all. But to clear all these misconceptions, I'm preparing another interesting video which will cover this whole topic of anti-gravity. If you want to know when I upload it, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get back to the topic. How long have you been analyzing these platforms? And which one was very hard for you to analyze? Well, we all understand how hard it is for anyone who wants to start building the first prototype. And that is really worth it. But we have to change the way we understand these devices, right? Well, let me ask you a question if you're watching this part right now. Have you ever wondered why after all the videos you have seen and all the articles you have read, you are still unable to replicate even a little prototype? Well, I've been saying this in all the videos. The only solution to this situation is that you have to start carrying out your own experiments. This will help you more than you can even imagine. Let me tell you about this underrated genius, Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla had a lot of mysteries and knowledge about nature, to the point where he didn't even want to build a flying saucer. The only thing which helped Nikola Tesla become this famous ingenious is the way he understood things by carrying out the experiments, which accidentally led to some of his shocking inventions like death ray, earthquake machine, transformers, the Tesla tower, and the Tesla coils. We can even mention this mysterious man from Russia, Viktor Grebennikov. But when it comes to this man, things get a little bit different, because for Nikola Tesla, he was already in the fields of electromagnetic fields and stuff, which actually made it simple for him to do the research. But Grebennikov on his side, he was a biologist. He only did with insects. This means there could not have been any way he would have achieved this if he didn't do the experiments with the bug shells. If you have analyzed his platform and these other flying platforms, I think you have also wondered why these platforms are much related. Well, the only reason why these platforms are much related is not because they replicated each other's work, but the fact that whenever each one of them carried out the experiments and found it necessary to use some principles similar to what another scientist used, he used it. And this fact here is really fair enough to make their platform principles look alike, even though they didn't replicate each other's work. I also think that the governments are hiding something useful from the stories of these scientists. Well, let me take you back. I don't think you actually remember the time Grebennikov wanted to publish his book called My World, where he included all the details needed to build his platform. The book editors and publishers denied his book and ordered him to remove some statements and other footages in order to be approved. Well, I don't really know what you think about that, but that is really suspicious. Let us talk about the seal effect generator. I also have read that in order to have a fully working prototype of the seal effect generator, you have to invest about $3 million. How could you believe this lie? This is actually a statement created by these guys to discourage anyone who wants to start replicating this platform. Few years ago, I started seeing some of these content creators who were trying to replicate the seal effect generator. But when I first saw these videos, I wondered this question: if we really want to start replicating the SEG, then why are we more interested into its free energy rather than focusing on how we can get it off the ground? You can also understand what I'm actually saying here. Suppose that we have the permanent magnets surrounding the plates, and we also have the outer coils. And how is this arrangement here going to help us achieve the effect of gravitation and free energy? That is not gonna happen. Well, maybe because you have seen a video where a person was lighting an LED. You may say there is hope, but that is totally wrong, because when you understand the amount of energy is being applied to even light up those LEDs, you will be blown out. And here's where we are all making mistakes about the seal effect generator. We are believing that the schematics and the laws of squares that John Searle provided were 100% true. And with this mindset, we are far away from achieving anything on the seal effect generator, whether it's the free energy or the anti-gravity effect. So, carry out experiments based on how you understand things instead of how you learn them. Because even the internal design of the seal effect generator can actually change according to your energies, and your design can still be more successful than the actual design Mr. Searle provided. So after watching this video, I know you've picked up some interesting topics that will help you in your energies. But let me ask you a question first. Are you going with these real facts riffed by the owners of these fine platforms, or you are going with these useless complicated theories and calculations? Tell me in comments. I know a lot of people have met John Robert Roy in real life, expecting him to tell them the secrets of the seal effect generator, but he didn't. So I think this is actually a good time that we should put together and pick up from the statements and real facts raised by these legendary scientists. So this is the end of this fascinating video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe, because another fascinating video is coming up soon.